Hey, it's the Love in Your Awake podcast, and we're so glad that you've joined us today. Together with Ben Teefy, we're diving into theology to talk real life and learn how we, like Jesus, can leave love in our wake. I am Bethany Thompson. Let's go.
Let's go.
We're back, and we're on an incredibly good topic. If you tuned in, if you've missed the last two, go back, listen. We are talking about Jesus's comprehensive vision for our life. Mm-hmm. So, you know, if you're kind of like, yeah, I do want to know that, stick around. We've got some thoughts for you today, and we're heading back to the Old Testament. Last time we talked a little bit about Matthew 25, amongst other things, talking about how our life is bigger than paying pills and dying.
Yep.
Paying bills.
Paying bills and popping pills. It's bigger than that.
Yeah, which we're excited for. And, yeah.
Giddy up. So I think the idea is we're not saying for a second that if I have a profession or if I have a specific walk of life, we're not saying you're doing the wrong thing unless you're a pastor or a missionary or a youth pastor.
We're definitely not saying that.
We're not saying that, but we are saying this. But if no matter what you do, whether you're a pastor, a missionary, a youth pastor, a mum, a dad, a professional sports person, a banker, a butcher, baker, candlestick maker, right? If you're doing that without reference to Jesus' overarching and comprehensive vision for your life, you are missing out on something.
Yeah, we're part of the kingdom of heaven.
We are.
Not the kingdom of our name.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I think, we talked in one of our last episodes about Matthew 25 and about how Jesus himself separates the sheep and the goats purely based on what was your life wrapped up around. It wasn't wrapped up around your mortgage, but you should have a mortgage, right? We're not pay it off, get rich and pay it off. I'm happy for that too. So you should have all that stuff. But at the end of the day, why do we have anything we have? We have it because we're stewards from God.
Yeah.
And our life, I'm not just talking about financial, the direction of our life, every hour, every day, our strengths, our talents, our gifts, our work, our rest and our play, it is all stewarded because God gave us something called this gift of life. And now the question for every human, the quality New Testament discipleship question, what is Jesus' comprehensive vision for my life and how does everything I have play into that? The job I do, the family I'm building, the culture that I'm building in our house, the assets that we have, the income that we have, the time management, how is that feeding into Jesus' comprehensive vision for our life?
The way we've been kind of talking about it here for the last couple of weeks is how do I reorder my life around the ways of Jesus?
I've got to order it, yeah.
Yeah, and I really like that thought because I think that you commit your life to Jesus and then it's not just business as usual. It's not same old goes that I'm just running this particular race, but it is really like, what does that mean for me to reorder something? And in essence, we're not just reordering it because of Jesus. We're reordering it based on what we were created for. Like back to its original intention, back to its original plan, where there's flourishing, where there's life. It's not just staying on this current path. And I think
yes.
Even recently someone was speaking at church and just that whole thing was kind of that thrust of like, where are we going? And like, what are we doing? And if we as disciples don't ask that question, what are we actually true disciples?
Yeah.
Because really the disciples gave up everything and they thought, I need to learn the ways of Jesus. If we get saved and don't learn the ways of Jesus, then what? We've just got a ticket.
Yeah.
We haven't actually changed anything about our life, but Jesus came to redeem our life, not to give us a ticket.
He came to sweep us up into something overarching that
so
now
what is
has
that and how do we do that? Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so I think it's important to think about that like, man, if I'm a stay-home parent, that matters as much for me as it does a missionary on the streets of Nairobi. You know, it's the same question. The application is different. The answer to the question is different for everybody. But you've got to spend time discerning how that is. And I think this is why this is important to me. Because I think anybody who sits under a year of my preaching in a church would probably think, okay, I do talk about grace a lot and I have an emphasis on the grace of God in the gospel and its transforming power in our lives. But then I notice some interesting things about people who believe that, right? And it is that sometimes people have the tendency to think that grace means, oh, good, I don't have to do anything.
Very true. I feel like that's a strong leaning at times,
And they're right. Grace means you don't have to do anything, but you do get to do something. And so it's like, I don't preach religiously on tithing, right? On the 10% being given to God. But here's why. What type of person is mad enough that they think God only gets 10% of their stuff? You know, like, I don't know, man, our family's kind of like, well, God, the 100% of this is at your disposal. Now we've got to work out the details, you know. Yeah. So I think I'm not legalistic about the tithe being the 10%. But then I think some people have the tendency to interpret that as, oh, well, now I'm under grace. But then there's a default setting in Western culture that now I'm selfish with 100% of my stuff. You know, like, so it's like if it's just like, oh, do I have to give 10% or not? Well, now I'm selfish with 100%. So that's not really grace. That's selfishness.
And it's like, have I actually understood grace?
Yeah, that's right.
Because I think when you truly understand it, you can't help but
that's right.
do the next thing, pass it on.
Yeah.
Give it forward, be generous, all those
like
things.
There's no legalistic rule about what you have to do, but the question is, how are we responding in the gospel? You know, the one of the most significant life verses for me comes from Ephesians, where Paul says you're saved by grace, not by works, so that no one can boast. But then the very next sentence, but God has prepared good works for us in advance that we should walk in them. You are God's workmanship created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared in advance that you would walk in them. So it's like, what is the thing? How does my life orient around recognizing and discerning this is something God's been cooking up and I get to join God? Not what am I going to cook up? Oh, I'm going to cook something up. You don't have to be driven. You don't have to be ambitious. You don't have to be, a master strategist about everything. Now, if God's given you those gifts, do all that. But the biggest question is, how do I discern what God has cooked up that I join in, that I get on board with, And so most people thinking about these things will be like, oh, yeah, but what difference can I make, with my meager everything? Okay, well, you don't have to be a huge difference maker. All you have to do is get on board what God has prepared in advance. And if we all do that together, we all make a significant difference for the kingdom of God together. When our city is filled with Christians who are all saying, how do I get on board what God has prepared in advance for me to do? So I'm living with my head on swivel, waiting to correspond with those moments where I'm at a crossroads because God's already built this roadworks here. I now have to take that right exit. Good. He's prepared it in advance. Jesus' overarching comprehensive vision for my life is to be on a mission with him, to see his kingdom come and his will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So that's different to... well, I don't know, I went to church on Sunday, or I went to small group last Wednesday and I gave of the tithe to the Lord. Well, maybe you're doing all of that, but, there's a lot of extra time in your week and, it's not even about a busy schedule. It's about what is the orientation of your life. When you went to mother's group, are you there going, I'm on the way to mother's group. What if God's prepared something in advance for me to walk in at this group today? I'm on the way to work. What if God's prepared something in advance for me today that's going to happen with a colleague? Oh, well, then I won't in the lunchroom keep my head stuck doom scrolling on Instagram. I'll engage with my colleagues while they eat their lunch then.
Which is interesting when you're kind of giving examples from before. I was thinking, when you come across someone who lives like this, it's vastly different to someone who doesn't. Like the fruit of their life, like take a single mum on the way to mum's group, someone that is coming with intentionality, knows that this is part of the core,
so true.
Not just priority, not just responsibility, but the core vision and heart for their life. They're a completely different person than if it's like, oh, well, had some kids and so this is the season I'm in. Like it's not great. That's just so demotivating. But someone who then is going, no, this is my calling, this is my vision, and out of this God is bringing kingdom results. I'm like, that person walks with a sense of confidence. That person walks with a sense of conviction. They walk with a sense of priority. They walk with so many different things. And it's like, we know people like that. And if you're listening, you know people and you think there's something like that they have. It's like they're a spear and they're hitting their target. Yeah. Like, oh.
You and I both know someone that matches this description, right? They're part of our ministry world. They have no...
I'm thinking I can think of a couple of people.
I know, we do know people, but I'm going to try to give away who it is and you're going to guess their name, right? And we're fine to name them on this podcast.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, so they have no glamorous title or position. Okay, they give of their life in many, many ways to other people. They're an incredibly significant person. If I say their name, you're going to say that's one of the most significant kingdom people that we know, right?
Okay.
They have
in
not,
our church.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have not got a glamorous
like
title.
I'm on a game show. Yeah.
They're not running a department as the boss of it or anything like that, right? But at the same time, they're probably one of the best evangelists we know. I know that narrows the field down to quite a few options too, right? But they're a good evangelist.
Yeah.
They give of their life to help everybody all the time. And if there's a critique we have of them, it would be the times we might need to go, okay, just like pump the brakes a little. You're doing everything for everybody, exercise some self-care or whatever, right? So fair enough that we don't believe in evangelistness. But this person, everywhere they go, they have a worldview that is, I'm a kingdom of God person. So if they're at the shops, they're going to talk to someone, right? They're going to they're going to do something. There's just crazy things that happen in their life that are ministry oriented, right? And so it's like if they were at the shopping centre, they come away with a testimony about what God did through them to help someone at the shopping centre. If they're in their workplace, which they have a couple of different jobs, they have testimonies.
The top name just got crossed
Okay,
off.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. We can think of,
I'm like,
right?
yeah.
I'm going to give it away in a second. And then they're like that at church. They're like that in their workplace. They're like that at the shops. They're like it when they volunteer at the 17 other things they want to do with their time. They're like it in their own home. We went on a mission trip to India, and they were like that on the mission trip. They were just always.
Ding, 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 ding.
We went on a short-term trip to India where they paid money to go on the team, right?
Yeah.
And not only were they good at all the team's established official activities, they were constantly off the reservation because they don't have an off button. So it's like if we're walking down the street, the team are going from point A to point B. We need to expeditiously get to our next appointment.
Sorry.
And this person is 100 meters back
because
they've found someone in the middle of the street to have a conversation with.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like you were going through the shopping mall and that person has 3 beggars by the hand leading them to buy them food. Like just they don't have an off button, right? You know who I'm talking to.
I know where you're going.
And I just have so much profound respect for Tamara as an important person.
Shout out to you, Tamara.
You're awesome. However, right, so this is what's amazing about that is the person I described like that isn't the senior pastor of a church, isn't a missionary, isn't a, you know what I mean? So all
That's
of the...
a great point.
Think
Really
about
good
how
point.
many people she's led to the Lord, how many people...
She brings,
right?
Tells a story about.
She's got
prays
testimony.
for,
She helps people. Like there's this crazy levels of fruit in her life, right? Now, none of that is an official title capacity. All of that is in her day-to-day context. Because you know what I haven't ever talked to her about this, but this is my suspicion. I think she views herself as an undercover missionary. And everywhere she goes, she really is the type of person that thinks God's got good works prepared in advance for me to walk in. Come on. So she's looking out all the time for what does God want for me here. And in fact, if she tells you a story, she'll say, yeah, I went to the shops and I was like, okay, God, is there someone here you want me to bless? You know, like that's a phenomenal way for somebody to live. And
she does act like God's already planned things in advance.
She does. Yeah. She does. And something comes up and she's like, oh, thank you, Lord. That's an opportunity for me to bless this person. Like, and I just think she's a standout. And why she's a standout is now she could have titles and, you know, if she's came to me and said, I want to be a missionary, I'd support her being a missionary. You know, like I'm all for it.
She got fruit, man.
But she has like 2 different jobs that she works, 2 different fields that she works in. She's got family. She's got her life. She's got her hobby. She's got her friends, connect group, whatever, right? But all of the kingdom things she does are not part of her job description in those realms. It's the parallel universe that she inhabits as a disciple of Jesus on God's mission. And I just think, well, there's somebody who is completely swept up in Jesus' overarching comprehensive vision for her life.
Great.
So why that's important is we can all learn something from her in terms of, you know, when I'm shopping, I'm not just a private citizen that's rude to the cashier and only thinking about what I'm grabbing. You know what I mean? It's like, man, I'm a kingdom person here, you know. So she stands out to me as someone like salt and light everywhere she goes, you know. Yeah. And it's
that's
important.
such a great point.
It's important for a couple of reasons, right? So here's one that I've been thinking about a lot lately that applies to every Christian, right? And it comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 3. Oh, yeah. Which Bethany's can register some surprise because this wasn't part of our pre-planned. What are we talking about on the podcast today?
We'll go there. We go anywhere. Yes, great.
Okay. So in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, Paul is obviously writing to the Corinthians. Yes. He's sorting out some level of controversy.
In all of Corinthians?
Yeah. There's always some, you know. But one of the controversies is around the Corinthians are kind of hung up on celebrity leaders and, you know, which is the most important apostle and all this sort of stuff, right? And so into that controversy, Paul seeds a life principle, which is speaking into the context of the leadership controversies, right? But it is an overarching principle that belongs in the processing of every disciple that I personally have been thinking about a lot lately. Like I've been thinking about this so much from a personal application perspective, right? So it's between verse 10 and verse 15 of 1 Corinthians, right? Okay. So listen to this. By the grace of God given to me, I laid a foundation as a wise builder and someone else is building on it, but each one should build with care. Now, he is saying, what I did in Corinth is cool. You guys can engage with other leaders and all that sort of stuff. All I did is I did my bit there, right?
Yes.
So I laid a foundation in the Corinthian church, and now someone else is building on it. So he doesn't care. You can listen to Paul. You can also listen to Apollos. He's not threatened by Apollos because he knows, well, it was my job to build the foundation, and Apollos can build on top of that foundation. But then listen to what he says, but each one should build with care. For no one can lay a foundation other than the one already laid, which is Jesus Christ. And if anyone builds on this foundation using gold, silver, costly stones, wood, hay, or straw, their work will be shown for what it is, because the day will bring it to light. It will be revealed with fire, and the fire will test the quality of each person's work. If what has been built survives, the builder receives a reward. If it is burned up, the builder will suffer loss.
Great passage.
Yet will be saved, even though only as one escaping through the flames, right? So think about this for a second. I've been puzzling over this verse, a lot in the last 12 months, a lot to think about what this is saying to every Christian, because it's in the context of the church planting conversation going on in Corinth, right?
Yeah.
But it's not only for that. Every person has to ask the question, is my life resting on a foundation of Jesus, right? And then what else am I building across my lifetime? And am I building with gold, silver, costly stones, wood, hay, or straw? Because at the end of the day, this is what we call an eschatological passage, right?
Starting from the end in mind, yes.
When Jesus comes back and the fire of his coming, which is glorious, right, initiates that new creation that you see in the end of the book of Revelation, then the fire of the coming is both glorious and terrible, because whatever gets judged in that glory remains no more. It will be burnt up. And whatever remains proceeds into the new creation, right? Now, pause button, because some people have never heard about this before because they don't read their Bible much, or they've only read the Left Behind series.
Or they're new, yep.
Yeah. So fair enough, a lot of people aren't familiar with the overarching new creation eschatology in the New Testament. The fact that, the biggest picture of the New Testament is not that you go to heaven when you die. The biggest picture of the New Testament is that heaven and earth combine in a new creation, and then we live in a renewed heavens and a renewed earth with allotted responsibilities from the King of Kings, and that's really something. And so Paul is... He mentions this at several junctures throughout his writings, and also in the book of Revelation you see it as well. However, and Jesus, eschatological teachings often hint to it as well, that what you have will be taken from you, but then some people will be given more. That's an eschatological frame. Anyway, but for Paul, he's saying that, that the day of the Lord will test every person's work. And either what you've worked on your entire life will become nothing, or it will remain after that and proceed into the new creation, right? So think about this. Every person has potential to be building something eternal that lasts, and into the new creation world, that work remains, right?
Yeah. Very much the story of the three little pigs. It is.
It really is. It really is. If anything, I was expecting you to say that definitely was not what I was expecting you to say. It is. That's when theology hits home.
Maybe that's where it came from.
It's a good sermon. So will your house be blown down or not? Really it is. So then, I think about this because in ministry life, someone could look at me and go, oh, it's all right for you, Pastor Ben. You pastor a church, so your full-time life is building things for the kingdom of God. And it's not necessarily.
But that's not true, is it?
It's not.
You can be in ministry and have all hay and straw.
You can be. And that's what Paul's warning them about,
Yeah.
right? So this is not only applicable to church planting, because Paul's warning the church planting people, you can be real busy, but your ministry is hay and straw. So you better be careful. It'll really be tested. Is what you're building towards, where does your energy, resources, time, talents, treasures go towards? Will it remain into the new creation, right? So when I support soul winning, I'm confident that remains into the new creation, right? When I support mission and justice, that remains into the new creation. Jesus said that's what makes you a sheep or a goat, because it's what does your life stand for? So what my life stands for, if my life only, now you can have whatever you want, right? It's not about, there's plenty of things that won't go into the new creation, right?
Yep.
If I grow back my beard, right, it's not coming into the new creation. Probably. You know what I mean? So as much as I'm going to spend time straightening, blow drying, combing, oiling or whatever, at the end of the day, it's of no eternal consequence, but it's not evil.
No.
It's just that if that was all there was to my life, that's a problem, isn't it? Because it's nothing that's going to last. Some would say it's not even there now, So we've all got things like that in our life that are like amoral, I mean, I can stress about my car, but at the end of the day, my car's not going to be there in new creation, so I've got to look after it now, but I can't hang up on it and make it my idol.
Which is actually, I think, a bit of a dilemma in people that they think my life's either for Jesus or it's evil. But it's actually, that's not really the way that it is. Like there's something far bigger.
Yep.
I don't know if it's a continuum, but there is that sense of like, but that's not evil.
Yeah.
But then what is it for? What is the purpose of that? Where's it going?
Yeah. I think there's momentary
so like, what is
stewardship.
it wrapped around?
What is the wisest thing now?
Yeah.
But then there's some bigger priorities. The priority goes to what is of eternal value.
But even like you're talking before about a single mum, like that's not an evil thing to do. That's a great, I mean,
that's
like,
important.
sorry, like a mum or a parent or whatever. That's not a bad thing that you're in a parenting season, but how you what you wrap around it.
Yes. Well, for example,
that's very determining.
So someone might go, well, I'm only a stay-home parent, so how is that of eternal consequence? Because you're socializing little humans in your home to be kingdom of God people. That is of incredible eternal significance, right? What if the next Billy Graham's under your care? Well, if you don't treat them like that, they won't be, So you're setting up the worldview of the next generation.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is good. Therefore, don't get into crazy levels of debt that you can't afford that's going to require you then to have to neglect your children, work 17 jobs and sell all your assets and a kidney just to pay the bills because your kid had to have the most designer brand name T-shirt for that one weekend, right? For example, right?
That's a great point.
And you see families do stuff like this all the time. So at the end of the day, because that brand name T-shirt will not last into the new creation.
It won't even last a season with a kid, man. They grow out of them so quickly.
They spill one chocolate on it. So here's the thing. It's not evil if the kid has the shirt. But what it is how much of that
has value.
Makes you a hamster on a wheel that robs your focus from new creation activities that now you're unable to even spend time socializing and discipling your kid. Hopefully the kids ministry will do it and the church or youth ministry will do it. But guess what? Stats say the parent has the most
aid
significant...
what you're already doing,
the most significant research, we should get Felica on to talk about this, that the parent creates the biggest discipleship journey for their child. It's not the kids ministry or the youth ministry. The damage is already done by the time they attend.
If we think that, we're well deceived, aren't we? I mean, that's half an hour, 20 minutes on a Sunday, if that,
once
or
every
maybe
few
an
weeks
hour.
by average family attendances, So anyway, the thing is that no matter who you are, you've got to think, what am I contributing to? So for me, because we've already talked about giving, right? But for me, when I pour into mission, when I pour into the ministry of the church, I don't see it as fulfilling a rule on tithing. I see it as this is my corporate expression of how I join with God's people to build something that is of eternal value. That's the joy I get in giving, right? It's the joy I get in supporting mission. I give my time voluntarily like you do to mission organizations. I bring in my expertise in my spare time to do work. Why do I do that? Because I want to make sure that my role in that organization is contributing to eternity. I'm going to be home watching Netflix otherwise on that day. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, once a month I can give some hours instead of be on Netflix because Netflix will be gone, but my contribution to that eternal value, it'll still be there, reaching out to my neighbor and trying to win them to faith, that'll still be there, So it's this, what is my orientation of life? And I think one of them is when we believe so much in grace, which I definitely do, there's a secondary question. Like, look at how Paul says this. If what's been built survives, the builder receives a reward. If it is burned up, the builder will suffer loss, but will be saved even though it's one escaping through the flames. So it's like there's a whole field of theology that we don't talk about much because it's very weird and you can't do justice in a 30-minute sermon on a Sunday.
Sure.
But this whole thing of, well, what is eternal reward? What eternal reward is not the same for everybody. Eternal reward is scaled according to what you invest in the kingdom of heaven. And so some people will be in the new creation with their pants on fire, I escaped as one through the flames. They're not going. They're not saved, right?
Yep.
But it's like, hey, what are you building into the future? Because that will remain, And then, man, that's why Christians died for their faith in the first 400 years of the church, because they knew, but it doesn't matter. Everything can be burnt because what I'm building, I'm sending into eternity, So that is part of Jesus' comprehensive vision for our life. It's why he talked about the sheep and the goats. Your answer to that question will survive because he goes, nah, you didn't just feed the poor. You did it to me as worship.
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
No, you didn't just ignore the poor. You actually said you're not a Christian, so you've got nothing. You can't even come, I mean, that's a sobering rumination.
Is sobering.
Yeah,
it is a great thought. I think I'm seeing it as like what are your building blocks? Because everyone's building something, but what are they made of? Yeah. Are they made of something substantial or are they made of something weak? Because at the end of the time, is we're here not just to one day get a ticket to heaven, but to bring heaven here. So
that's right.
Guys, we're having
and
a
it can
good
be
conversation.
significant. Our contribution has significance. It's the widow's mite. The widow's mite carries into eternity, even though it's that one little mite. Guess what? Someone put $1 billion into something that will burn. It's just straw, you know. Which
again highlights that it's not if you're in ministry. It's our heart and what's going on the inside that affects our building blocks on the outside. And hey, which one of the three little pigs are you? So what are you building with? But we're here for a conversation, and we're definitely here for a conversation about how our lives can make a difference and be bigger than we are. So this one was a quick one, but we're all here for it. So if you want to look at it, it's 1 Corinthians 3, and thanks for stopping by. Look, it's been fun to stay connected with us. It's Encounter Church TV on YouTube and Encounter Church AU on Insta. We're all about leading lives that leave love in our wake. So until next time, maybe we can all find ways to do just that. Bye for now.
I love you, gang.